Alright, quick video. Gonna go over pros and cons. My first impressions, I've just been jotting them down as I play, so they're not necessarily in order. I'd say so far I'd give the game like an 8 out of 10, but there's a lot of stuff that's rough around the edges, buggy, some balance issues, but I'm sure with time it'll be fixed. But let's get started. Pros. DC protection says instant save on crash, can log back into wherever you were. So this actually only works in like the campaign. When I DC in a map, I do not get put back where I was when I log back in. It just puts me in my hideout, which I feel like is kind of a waste of the feature. Everything art related is by far the best in any ARPG, and it's genuinely not even close. It's so far ahead of every other game. And just in general, it's probably the best looking game I've ever played. Sentences are peak game design. We only have like a third of what's gonna come out, but so far they're just so good. Some of them are pretty weird, but you know, overall, very good design. The new gem system is good. There's some bad about the new gem system. I'll get to that in the cons, but by the new gem system, I purely mean like this stuff, not having to worry about links in your gear. Color and that stuff feels way nicer. Pausing outside of boss fights is good. I do not like pausing in boss fights in hardcore. It's too OP. Now people in the comments are gonna fight and say stupid things about Logo Macro that they don't understand, but I don't care about pausing in softcore, but I think like pausing in boss fights, in pinnacle boss fights in hardcore is stupid. Maps are decent, but sometimes it's really annoying to find the last rare monster. Honestly, it doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would, because the way you clear the map with the pacing, you kind of just clear everything as you go anyways. So you don't always end up having to backtrack, but sometimes you do, and it's pretty annoying. Theory crafting builds is going to be just absolutely insane with finding different skill combos once more stuff is discovered, added over time. So the like building in PoE1 is basically find one interaction and abuse the hell out of it. But usually that interaction is not between different skills. Sometimes it is, but usually it's some damage scaling mechanic. In this game, you actually like try and look for different skill combos to use. I'm a big fan of the combo. I think it opens up a lot more, not skill expression, but I don't know, maybe building skill expression. It gives you another layer of your build to look into. In PoE1, you like never really even think about that. You just think about what one good damaging skill you're gonna do. In this, you're gonna have to think of combos and layer them on top of each other, and then also get the mechanics that will go well with that. I think map juicing is gonna be pretty good. The towers that add mechanics to your maps with the tablets, I see them pretty frequently with multiple of them close to each other. They said it was going to be rare, but I frequently have like 3 right next to each other. Here's 2 right next to each other. I mean, that's basically 3. It'll impact all these maps. Stack a bunch of them. Here's 3 right next to each other. 3 pretty close. They're all pretty close. I think they undersold how much stuff you'll be able to add to the map. I mean, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost 5. Almost 6. I like the combat. Even with the slower pace, I'm fine with the pace. I like the pace. I like the combo gameplay. I mean, in PoE1, I always played like 2-button builds anyways, so, I mean, kind of made for me. Boss fights are by far the best in any ARPG, and that's also not even close. I like the crafting loop. It is simple right now, but I think it feels pretty good. So what you do for like probably most crafts, you do like essence to target a specific type of mod, augment it, regal it, exalt it. Then if you get bad mods, you can try and chaos it or null it or whatever. And then you have the omens for meta crafting, like this one. Exalted orb will only add prefix, stuff like that. And then socket your runes and vol it, and then voling in this actually has a lower brick chance, and it tends to add pretty good stuff. Let's see, I'm gonna test this here. Alright, I don't think that did anything, but it didn't brick. The amount of currency that drops the leveling and into early maps, I've seen a lot of people complain about this, but in my experience it felt pretty good. However, if you get unlucky, it's not enough to offset getting like an unlucky streak. That is one of my cons that I'll get to, is you can get absolutely shit on with your gear. But personally, I find the amount of currency that drops to feel pretty good. It's kind of blocked here, but I have 46 exalts. I mean, a lot of it's from trading, but I usually get a couple exalts every few maps. Transmute augments are plentiful. Regals are a little rare, but easy to trade for. I think this game is definitely balanced majority around trading right now. Like in PoE 1, I think a lot of people are just used to getting everything they need when they need it because of all the power creep that's been over the years, but in this game, you're really expected to trade. I mean, you kind of are in PoE 1 to an extent, but in PoE 1 you can get everything you need. This game's not really like that yet because it hasn't had the years to power creep, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Waz feels great for ranged. Yeah, I really like Waz. It feels really good for shooting and stuff. I haven't tried it with melee yet. The weapon swapping tech is cool. Like, I'm using a crossbow, but I can leap slam and block with my shield whenever I want to like cross a gap or something. It's pretty nice. And I go back to my crossbow. And actually, something weird is happening right now. I'm like T-posing and my crossbow's not shooting. I don't know what's happening. That's a con, by the way. The game's very buggy. Oh, there we go. Feels like the first true modern next-gen ARPG. I mean this like purely just based on the feel of playing. Not necessarily mechanics or anything. Every other ARPG you play it, and I would believe you if you told me the game was made in like 2013. Every other ARPG, even though I like them and I think we're in a really good age of ARPGs, like we're in a golden age of ARPGs, PoE 2 or not, I still think that's true. Even if PoE 2 didn't exist, I think we would be in a golden age of ARPGs, but every other RPG just doesn't feel like it's evolved, right? They all feel like they could have been made in 2013. I like the Atlas system. I do like you can kind of go to different zones to target farm different things. Different biomes, you get different unique maps and such from the Atlas, and it's infinite. I think it's cool. And then the Atlas tree gives you a little bit more target farming with something like this. Gives you more reason to target farm different biomes. I've always been a fan of going to specific places for specific things. I already talked about that, but I like the pace in the game. Overall, very solid, but there is also quite a lengthy list of cons incoming. Maps are way too big and layouts are awful. Personally, I wouldn't really have a problem with huge maps if the layouts weren't, like, terrible, but so much of my campaign run was just trying to, like, find in these terrible layouts basically a needle in a haystack. Like, go find this random tree to click in this zone that's 25,000 football fields long. Like, I think they definitely need to condense them. I don't think it's good for long term of the game. I don't think really anybody likes it too much. Ascendancy trials beyond the first trial are way overtuned. In the second Sanctum trial, I was losing like 400 honor per hit and I only had 1,000. It was just ridiculous. I had like 3 hits and then I was dead. Ultimatum's also overtuned, but it's a little... I think Ultimatum's a little better because you can get lucky with good mods. Sanctum is just screwed. You get like... I get like off-screen by random spears that I can barely see that just do like 500 of my honor. It's ridiculous. Leveling variance? Getting res is annoying, and I don't think you should like ever expect to be capped in a reasonable amount of time. I'm kind of blocking it with the stuff here again, but I'm not even... I'm level 82 and I'm pushing like tier 10 and higher maps and I'm still not res capped. I think it's way too hard to get res capped. If you get lucky, you can do it, but I mean I have res on almost every piece of gear with okay stats and I'm still not res capped. Not a huge fan of res capping stuff being a huge hurdle. I don't think you should get it necessarily for free, but now that I have almost 50 hours and I'm still not getting res capped with relative ease is kind of ridiculous. So the and continuing from leveling variants, the monster's power level max varies greatly. Some maps like the Dreadnought is probably the biggest offender, just have like 10 times harder monsters for no reason. They just become giga tanks and do 1 billion damage. And that zone is also extremely long. Then disparity between good and bad skills seems really high. I mean, that kind of makes sense with the game being harder. But seeing people play skills that are not optimal while leveling is pretty rough compared to the good ones. Can't take runes out of gear. Most of these runes are like little resistance things. I think this is another reason why it feels so bad to get res capped, is because you can't swap your runes, so you're kind of locked into it. When it's something as small as that and not like a huge changer, I feel like you should be able to take the runes out. Maybe the higher tier version, like the soul core things or ultimatum, could be locked in, but I don't know. Low tier runes being locked in your gear just feels bad. There's some bandit-like decisions that you cannot respec as far as I know. Like there's these bottle things you get, I don't know, somewhere. Is it in Act 3 maybe? Regardless, it's a quest that gives you 3 choices, and I wish I could change one, but I can't, as far as I know. Game's super buggy. I mean, to be expected. I mean, it's definitely a true early access, not a marketing early access like how a lot of other companies do. It's like it's pretty rough around the edges. It feels like a real beta. There's a ton of bugs. A lot of people are being locked out of stuff. Like sometimes when you get to maps, you can't use the map device, so then you can't do maps and you're kind of screwed unless you like mess with switching servers till it works or something. There's some ascendancy trials that like if you do your 3rd trial for ultimatum, it does not give you any points. You have to do it in Sanctum. There's bugs, a lot of bugs like that. There's a ton of crashes. I've probably had over 30 crashes at this point, and 20 of them completely froze my PC. I rolled back my Windows update, and it seems to be better though, so praying that fixes it. Along with a lot of other bugs. I'm not a huge fan of the heavy stun gameplay. Just constantly stunning bosses and taking them out of the fight is kind of weird. I don't know. I actually want to fight them. I don't want them to just be crying on the ground like a baby while I wail on them. I kind of talked about this, but pausing in boss fights too OP for hardcore. I have a video on this if you're interested in giving your bad take about it like everybody does. Missing a lot of tabs like maps. Yeah, I don't know why there's a lot of like these things essentially maps, right? We should have a map tab for this. I don't have a fragment tab. I'm missing a lot of tabs for things that I should have. And kind of on that same note, a lot of your MTX just say unavailable and you can't actually use it. Now I think this is acceptable because they'll have to re-rig it to every single character, and that probably takes a really long time. And I'm sure they'll keep doing it over time, but I'm not overly upset about that. But it's definitely a shock when I went into my MTX and like 90% of my stuff I can't use. Can't get low level, oh yeah, the gems. So this is the bad part about the gem system. You can't get low level gems unless you go back to the low level zone. Like once you're in maps, you're only gonna be getting gems that are like level 15 plus or whatever. And that means all the requirements are gonna be really high. So if you want like a curse or something that to be low level, because your attribute requirement can't handle it, you're gonna have to like go farm a low level zone. Or trade for it, I guess, but I don't feel like that's very good. I feel like they should give you the option that you can choose the level up to the max level of the gem. Or something. Some system like that, I don't know. But just having it as the set level feels bad. Some gems have way too high of a level requirement. Like some gems you can't even use to like level 65, and that is so many hours of gameplay for most people. That's kind of weird. You should be able to choose which checkpoint on a map to go to. So you have these gigantic maps, right? Then they have checkpoints, and if you die, you'll go back to them. Or if you click the go to checkpoint button, with how huge the maps are, I feel like you should be able to choose which checkpoint you actually go to. I think that would actually fix a lot of the pain with doing huge maps. Back to the level requirement thing. For example, I wanted to play Cluster Grenade, right? You don't get Cluster Grenade till level 52. So I was basically waiting to actually play the build I want to play till level 52, which took me a lot of hours. And then I get it, and then it doesn't even feel good. So it's like an insane time requirement to try out this gem that you want to play, just to find out it's bad. Mana Siphoner is kind of insane on fast monsters. This one's not a huge con, but on some rare monsters I feel like it's a little overtuned. Backtracking for rare to complete a map sucks, but it doesn't happen as often as expected. It does happen pretty often, but I think it depends on the map you're doing. Some are much better than others. Rares should have like a yellow low or something. Sometimes you'll miss them because they look like normal monsters. Honestly, I don't know what they're thinking with the whole map. You have to clear every rare and unique in a map. I think it's I don't like that. I hope it gets changed. I really doesn't feel great. Doesn't feel as bad as I thought, but I'd say it feels like a 2 out of 10. I thought it was gonna feel like a 0 out of 10, but it's like a 2 out of 10. It's really bad, but it's not like the absolute worst. The trading site for PvE2 took a step backwards. Oh, I'm blocking it. It's fine. I mean, I'm reading it out loud. Trading site for PvE2 took a step backwards. Like, I feel like the order of searching mods is messed up, and some very helpful mods or mod searches were removed, like pseudo mods, which you could choose like you just want the item to have 30 to any resistance. You can't do that anymore. Why does the pause system when you DC not work in maps? I already talked about that. Charm slots are too hard to get. These things. It's like I searched yesterday for belts with more than one charm slot, and there was like 8 of them listed. That is absurd. Why is there only 8? How do I go? I have like 50 hours in the game. Over 50. And I can't get a belt with more than one charm slot? ridiculous. So yeah, that's all the pros and cons. Been enjoying it a lot, but it definitely has issues. Things I think are kind of ridiculous that people are saying is that it's like Ruthless 2.0. It's really not like Ruthless. I think if you think it's like Ruthless, that means you've never played Ruthless. It's quite a few steps ahead of Ruthless in terms of stuff you get. Like, way ahead of Ruthless. I think a lot of people basically wanted PoE 1 with a pretty reskin on it. And a lot of people can't, like, differentiate that this is a different game that doesn't have 15 years of power creep. Overall, I think the game itself is in a pretty decent spot. I think once the balance of all the skills evens out and it gets figured out, it'll be really good. Probably surpassing PoE 1 for me. However, right now it's not. I mean, it's just not. The game is just not really well-rounded right now. It has a lot of good things in it, but very rough around the edges.